I need to set up my entire future, have everything figured out for my future right now.
And I'm 18.
Yeah. And
how ridiculous does that sound, by the way?
Ridiculous. Hello.
Welcome
Or welcome back
to the Womanly Podcast,
Where we embrace womanhood in its entirety.
from the hard and awkward conversations
to the silly and embarrassing moments.
An effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
What are y'all drinking tonight?
I have a root beer Olipop. It's very good for your gut health.
Tastes like a root beer dum dum.
It does taste like a root beer dum dum.
Which are also apparently good for your health because doctors give you dum dums. So
Yeah.
they're
Obviously.
basically health food, right?
Mm-mm.
No, that's how it works.
That's okay.
Okay, bummer. Well, I'm drinking water with a real health food.
I'm drinking Sprite.
I like Sprite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Been kind of sicky, so it's just been one of those comfort things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a lot of peppermint tea recently too. I kind of wish I had some right now, but I love peppermint tea and that always helps soothe my tummy. What's our check-in question tonight?
Have you been taking proper care of yourself lately?
No.
Why not?
Because I've been so busy and my priorities are whack. Quite honestly.
Why are your priorities whack?
Because when I get really busy, the only thing I can really do is just survive through it. I live in a survival mindset when I'm really stressed and busy. I don't live in a thriving mindset. It's not a great thing, but it's very deeply ingrained into who I am as a human being. But I'm on the tail end of it, and it's like whenever I'm in the midst of it, I don't see it clearly. It's whenever I'm kind of on the tail end of it, and I'm on the tail end of it right now, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I got some work to do.
Yeah.
It's time to take care of yourself a little bit now. So that's what I was even saying to you guys over dinner. Like, it's time to get some things figured out.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm kind of in the same place where I'm coming out of that place where I was like really not taking good care of myself there for a little bit. I was like not eating the way that I should be, not going to the gym as often as I should have been, but I also had hurt my knee. So I was just down and out for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of let myself be there for a while. And now I am like, I was like, okay, like it's time to like get up, get going. Like you're good. You'll be fine. Keep moving. Like get back into the groove of it. So I'm working on reincorporating my
routines,
my healthy routines.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I haven't been taking care of myself.
Why not?
For similar reasons to you guys.
Yeah.
Just been really busy, and it's a stressful season a little bit. And yeah, I almost took a bath last night, and then I was literally too tired to take a bath, and that's something I do for myself, and I just didn't do it. I got in bed instead.
Well, kind of along the lines of taking care of yourself and everything, tonight we are talking about the advice we would give to our teenage selves, and how we would, we look back on where we were at as a younger version of ourselves and the things that we would like to tell them so that they would take care of themselves.
Yes.
Obviously, we haven't learned any lessons. If we're not taking
we have a whole list of lessons
we
here.
have lessons.
Okay.
They're just not exactly the ones that are applicable to our current life circumstances.
Yeah, so just don't
judge us, please.
do what we say, don't do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll kind of give a little bit of grace to ourselves, but also just try to be a little bit honest and share some things that we've learned. Maybe still learning. Still learning a little bit to try to see.
Yeah, some of these lessons are fresh, man.
Yeah, fresh and ones that repeat.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's the same lesson, but it comes in a different package every time.
Totally.
And you're like, oh my God, I've met you before.
Yes. That feeling. You're like,
I've been here. I recognize that tree.
I knew this already, but I had to learn it again for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
so frustrating.
The worst. You're like, I thought I was smarter than this.
I know, right? No, none of us are apparently.
Mm-mm.
None of us are. Okay, well, who wants to start? Let me start. I'll start. I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My first one on my list is don't sweat the little things or the big things. People always say don't sweat the little things, but I was very much, I am the kind of person that sweats all the things.
Same.
Yeah.
I worry about it all. So I think it's important to keep everything in perspective, whether it's little or big. At the end of the day, it is not usually worth the amount of stress and attention you give to it. So
yes,
and also in high school as a teenager, the things that are little or big are so out of proportion to what are little and big in real life. Like
it's
when
all
you
big.
get into everything is big whenever you're a teenager, but because there's not a whole lot else going on in your life usually, at least not in my life whenever I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you get into your 20s, it's like, oh, what you thought was little or what you thought was big when you were, and this works actually for me both ways. There were a lot of things that I thought were little whenever I was a teenager that I look back on, I'm like, actually, that's kind of a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of things that I thought were big that obviously I now look at and I'm like, oh, that's kind of tiny. Like that's nothing compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
An issue. So whatever it is, because your perspective on those things change as you change and as you grow and go through different life circumstances, just try to balance your stress surrounding those things and don't sweat it if you can help it.
I kind of have one that piggybacks off of that, and one of them is the world won't crumble if you break the rules. Life's goodness isn't dependent on your obedience.
Oh, I love that one.
That was something that I was so burdened by. I felt that my worth and my value and my value as a friend, my value as a family member, my value as a contributing member to society was all based on how obedient I was and how well I followed people's directions.
Yeah.
And which has its pros but has a lot of cons too, because on the outside, especially from adults, you'd be like, wow, you're so mature, you're so responsible, you're so all of these things.
Whenever you're 16, everybody calls you an old soul.
Yeah.
It's not a compliment, guys. So you're noticing the trauma.
Yes, my trauma is showing. Yeah, and so I'm just, if there was one big thing, I think that would be one of my biggest things. It's just kind of like, the world is not dependent on your obedience.
Yeah.
Do break the rules sometimes.
Yeah.
Do what feels good and right for you. You
are not the glue. You may be the glue in very certain tiny situations.
Yeah.
But you are not the glue for the whole planet.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really feels that way, especially if you've been trained your whole life to be the glue in family or friendships or whatever else.
Totally.
You are not the glue for the whole for the whole planet. You're not the glue for the family either. You shouldn't be, especially as a child.
Yes, that was one thing that I was actually taught a lot of. My mom called me the peacemaker because I was the middle child growing up. And also I had somebody from the church I was attending at the time. They told me, they literally quote, prophesied over me and was like, you're going to be the one to fix your family. And I look back on that and I'm like, who told you that you could say that to a child?
Yeah.
What a burden. To a freaking, I was probably 14 or 15 at the time.
That is so heavy.
And they were like, you're going to be the one to fix your family. You're going to be
no, thank you.
Yeah. And now
I take that prophecy back. Thanks.
Yeah. I reject that prophecy.
In the name of Jesus. I rebuke
you. Holy water.
No one should have to carry that. That's so sad.
Yeah, so that took a while to shake, but we're good. Mostly good now.
Ouch.
Gosh. Well, I took this very literally. I thought we were doing like the number one advice to give our younger selves.
Okay. That's okay.
That's so
I guess
funny.
we didn't really talk about that all
yeah,
that
we
much.
didn't talk about that. Yeah, that would have been a
Probably would have been good for us to.
I guess I
define that.
technically have like 2. Like I can make it a 2-parter.
Okay.
But like,
well,
I took it very literally.
If there's anything you think of based on what we say, I have 6. So
only 6.
Only 6.
Well, one of mine is don't romanticize the future too much.
Oh, that's a good
one.
This is something I have struggled with and still do struggle with kind of a lot. Like, you don't really think about how much you might romanticize, things in life in general, your job, or just like goals, being a mom, having a house. Like we don't really catch ourselves romanticizing these things, like these big moments in life.
Yeah.
And I mean, truthfully, like I catch myself romanticizing the future a lot. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. All of life's moments, the big ones, the small ones, they all have their not so good moments. And, I just think it's important to keep that in the back of your head and, just like bring yourself back to reality a little bit.
It actually makes me think of, which this might sound counterintuitive in a way, but it makes me think of that quote. Whenever Andy in the office says, how do you know that you're in the good old days?
Before you've left them. And
I love that and hate that at the same time.
Which is so funny because you're like talking about romanticizing the future, but there's so much of our life that like we look back on and we're like, oh man, those were the good times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're like so busy romanticizing the future that we forget about the right now. And like right now we're living the good old days,
What?
My top one is take it slow.
Oh, perfect. Check.
Yeah. Talked about that already, I think. Yeah. But yeah, that's like my biggest, I just remember being such an anxious freaking child and teenager that it's just, I had this thing in me that was just kind of like, I have to do more every second.
Do more faster.
More faster. Exactly. Yep. And only really over the past year, I would say, have I finally learned. I've really had to learn how to take it slow. Yeah. And it has literally transformed me from the inside. Yeah. It really does make, I think that I am going to look back at this period in my life once this has like really processed, come to fruition for me. The whole idea of taking it slow, I really do think I'm going to look back on this time in my life and be like, I really made the most out of that time just by being there. Yeah. Not because I did more with what I had, but because I chose to take it slower and be more present and focus my time differently.
Mine is try to be in the present more. Yeah. Like that was one of my top advice I would give like to my younger self, just because like at 15 years old I had hardly just gotten a phone. Like Instagram was like up and rising. Yeah. And it was so hard for me to be present, and because social media was such a new fun thing for us, and I was just like infatuated with it. And it really did like steal so much of my time that I really do wish I could get back sometimes, because I was at such an impressionable age, 15 years old. And yeah, so I just think if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be like, try your best to be present and just like make it a goal to limit yourself and your time on social media, even though it's really hard because it's really fun. Like in reality, it really is going to be like so much better if you just focus on being in the present and not letting it take so much of your time.
Yeah.
I wrote down that I would love for my teenage self to know that they should start therapy the moment that you think you need to.
Yeah.
I was 18 or 19 whenever I first realized, like, I think I need to be in therapy. I think I need to be in counseling because I was struggling so hard going out to school and really just having a hard time with it, having a hard time with a lot of things. And I remember talking to one of my good friends and just saying, like, I think I need to do this. And she was like, you should do it. You should do it. But I didn't know how. And then, of course, as I had that thought, soon life got better. So I never did anything about it. But over the years, it took me 7 years from that first thought to actually step through of my own choice, step through the doors of a therapist's office and seek out help. And I know for a fact that at 18, 19, the reason why I was having a difficult time was because of an anxiety disorder that was undiagnosed at that point and would continue to be undiagnosed for 7 years. And I wish that whenever I had that first thought in my mind that, like, this isn't normal, I should get help, that I had done it, because how much different would my life have been? 7 years.
I know.
I don't really regret it because I just didn't know, right? Like I didn't fully know, so I can't really regret a decision that I didn't have any sort of
The capability
knowledge behind, right?
Yeah.
But I just wonder occasionally I wonder, like, what if I'd actually done something about that at that time, or there had been the right person with the right voice at that moment who told me, like, okay, let me help you figure this out.
Totally.
How much would my life have changed over those 7 years?
I have similar thoughts, but they're like, rather than I wish I had gone to therapy sooner, I'm like, what would my life be like if I didn't spend so many years just healing from my trauma?
If you didn't spend so many years doing that? Yeah.
Like if I had the trauma and just persisted,
like
through
if you
it,
did not have
but if I
to,
didn't have to,
yeah,
heal from, navigate all the depression and the anxiety that came along.
I that's a rabbit hole I can't go down.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, don't do it. It's pointless. My next one is I would tell my younger self to follow my intuition even blindly. Because
what's that like?
I had a Is that a serious question?
Yeah.
Do you not have strong intuition?
I do, but I don't follow it blindly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have learned now, after going through things where my intuition told me, hey, don't do that, but I did it anyways, and it didn't go well. Every single time, in fact, it's my intuition said, don't do that, and I did it anyways. It didn't go well. And every single time my intuition told me, do that. It doesn't make sense logically, but do it. Trust me, it'll work out. And every single time I have followed that, it has worked out tenfold.
Yeah.
Like what I ever thought it.
That's the part I guess I struggle with. The following the intuition blindly when it's telling you not to do something, I'm usually okay with.
Yeah.
It's the do something
against logic.
I'm not going to tell you why. That I'm like, that feels uncomfy.
Yes.
I don't like that.
And it's really confusing sometimes because there's a difference between your emotions and then your intuition and then your logic. And so sometimes it feels like
logic and I are good friends.
And intuition often does go against like something that is very a logical next step on paper. And then intuition is like, hey, do this instead. And you're like, why are you doing this to me?
Logic is safe. Logic is safe.
Logic is safe. It is very safe. But I think that intuition is far wiser and brings far more.
Logic is knowledge. Intuition is wisdom.
The whole idea of doing something logical is so that you do something that makes sense so that you get a better return, a good return. Whereas intuition is like, I know more about this situation that you're not logically aware of, and so you should listen to me. It's like your parent when you're like, I know more, and you're like, no, you don't. How do you know more than me? And then your parent is like, I know more. Trust me. Yeah. Come on, let's do this. Yeah. That's how I see my intuition. And I'm like,
it's the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I've learned to follow you.
Yeah.
And so there are a few instances in my life. Most of my life, because my mom encouraged me and all of her kids to heavily rely on intuition. I didn't have any really big major things that happened because I went against intuition, but there were some unfun situations that not like unsafe, but just like unfun relationships or whatever that I got involved in that
you wish you hadn't.
Yeah, that just would have been more pleasant to not be involved.
Yeah.
And so that's is what I would learn, is like all those instances where somebody was telling you something, and even if that person knew more about that thing than you did, if my intuition was telling me, no, don't do that, don't listen to them, blah, 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 to still follow that and to hold fast to it.
Yeah.
That's really good.
One of my other things that I wrote down, which I feel very passionately about this, is that if you have to give up 90% of yourself for someone who is not willing to give you 10% of themselves, they're not worth it. And that goes for friends, guys, girls, whatever. If you have to give 90% plus, I would even argue like maybe even 80, 70%. If they are not meeting you where, like, if the effort you are giving is not being met at the same amount, whether that's 50-50, 60-60, whatever, ideally in romantic relationships, you're each giving 100%. It's not 50-50. It should always be 100-100.
Yeah.
But if they are meeting you like way bare minimum, they're giving you 10% and you're giving them so much of yourself, it's not worth it. They don't care. They are not worth your time and energy, and it's just time to break loose from that. I wish I had learned that lesson so long ago.
I wish I could go back to my 15-year-old self and be like, hey, watch out.
Yep.
Watch your back.
Because how nice is it whenever and I will say, like, I've been on that side of things where you're like, this is somebody I really only want to give like 5-10% of myself to. And sometimes like you've got somebody who's giving you 60, 70, 80%. And I think to some extent for me, usually that's pretty annoying, and I don't usually take advantage of it. But there are times that I can imagine it's tempting to take advantage of that out of somebody.
Yeah.
But think about that. Think about the words I just said, that you're taking advantage of somebody's interest and their time and their energy. Yeah. And that's
for your own benefit.
That's not good. Like, you're doing it because it makes you feel good, but it's not because you care.
Yeah.
Like, there's not anything good about it.
Yeah. Women aren't actually less than men. We actually are just different.
Yeah.
True.
Like, I actually believed when I was younger that women were less than men. The female.
Well, we were kind of grown up to think that way a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's our parents' fault that we.
Oh, it was my parents. It was my dad's fault.
Oh,
for sure.
I don't think it was. It was anything that
can be
I was
community related.
Depending
on
for sure
who's delivering the message.
I think it definitely was community related in my experience.
Yeah, so I grew up believing that, and there's a lot of things in the modern Christian church that perpetuate those feelings.
Not the Bible.
Not the Bible, to be clear, but the modern Christian church. So that was a long time in the making.
Yeah.
It was really through therapy, through the Christian therapist that I saw, where I really started to learn the beauty through the Christian male therapist that I saw, that I really started to learn the beauty and value of being a woman. And how much that adds to the world. And to men's life, to children's, to just the world around us,
other women around you.
and other women around us, and how much men even need that. Not that we're here just for them, but but how much of a gap we fill.
Yep.
Yeah, we really do. We fill a lot of
You're
little
welcome,
gaps.
world.
Speaking of not being the glue that holds everything
I know.
together.
Well, that one's just like, you know.
Yeah.
People aren't born without women, so I don't know how you avoid that one.
Yeah.
I have kind of a funny one. Leave your hair and skin alone.
Ooh, what do you mean by that?
Like, don't throw all kinds of crazy dye on it, and don't freaking fry it to hell with hair tools, and don't pick at your skin, and don't wear Dollar General makeup, and yeah, you know, like, leave it alone. Just be so nice to your skin and your hair.
And you know what's funny is girls that are 15 nowadays are just a different breed.
They've benefited from all our trial and error.
Yeah, seriously.
They
You're
are.
welcome.
We blazed the trail for them, and they are thriving.
Yeah, because
you
they've got
are
all
welcome.
those YouTube tutorials on
that we made
after years of
us millennials took on that burden of teaching you everything we figured out. Dang.
There was one point in time where I was literally coloring my hair with Crayola markers.
You are shitting me.
No, I'm not. I am not. I will find the pictures and I will text them to you guys. I would literally color.
Madeline.
I had like bangs, and I colored like rainbow bangs with Crayola markers. It would wash out.
Oh, markers.
Yeah.
I was like, how are you getting that crayon to go on?
Well, I mean, still.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's probably not horrible, but like not great.
I mean, okay, to be honest.
And leave your eyebrows alone.
Oh yeah, stop that.
That's
guys.
that's a generational
it's okay
specific.
to have eyebrows.
Yeah, generation specific thing.
Back to the Crayola crayon marker thing. If I have to say, if I had blonde hair, I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Probably worse.
I don't know. I'll have to find the pictures because Also, we were like the first generation who ever did selfies the way that we see them now. I really wish I did not take selfies back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at the same time, it's kind of fun to look back on because you're like, you're so dumb.
We can cringe.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I really wish nobody ever, because we were doing the selfies with the digital cameras. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, I have a confession. Now that I am working in a job where I don't meet with clients, I just meet with my boss, and one meeting a week, and that's it. I don't have any clients to impress. I'm really thinking about like dyeing my hair like pink or some crazy color that I've always wanted to dye because I'm like, I don't have to worry about
why
like
the heck not
the perception that I am of the company anymore.
No
since
time
I'm not
like the present. Am I right?
Yeah. Amen, girl.
Do it.
Yeah.
So this one is very specific to my teenage years, a little bit in my early 20s, but very specific to teenage. Because a lot of this kind of bleeds through teenager to through my 20s. But stop over romanticizing every friendship with the opposite sex. It's harmful, and just have fun.
Oh my gosh.
And I will say the conservative Christian community perpetuates this issue as well, where they like over sexualize and or over romanticize every guy girl interaction that exists. And so I took that very seriously. I was like, you are my boyfriend, or we are like hardly friends. Sam was actually the first real guy friend that I had, and then I ended up marrying him. So way to not over romanticize that.
Y'all like hardcore friend zoned each other though, right?
We did hardcore friend zoned each other, but he was the first like real guy friend that I had. And every other guy friend I was always like, I either like didn't want them to like me, so I was like, keep your distance. Like, I'll keep my distance from you, or I don't know, I didn't want to lead them on or something like that, you know?
Bryce was my first real guy friend too, because we didn't share any romantic feelings toward each other. the only guy that started out as friendship and then ended up in a relationship. So I think I consider Bryce my first guy good
That's
friend.
Cute.
I can't say the same for Cord. Sorry.
Yeah. You had Bryce and Sam and
I was on the opposite side where I didn't romanticize any of my guy friends at all.
Yeah.
Which I know for a fact for some of them was, sad. So I'm sorry.
You missed some cues.
Well, it wasn't even that. Like I just blatantly ignored them on purpose because
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to be friends with everybody. I'm not interested,
Yeah.
So yeah,
That makes sense.
that's funny. Yeah.
That does make
Cord and I met when I was 19.
I just feel like I missed out on a lot of really cool
friendships.
because I was too scared that one of us would
you were
catch
told
feelings.
a lie that
Yeah.
men
Yeah.
and women can't be friends, which is a lie, by the way.
I think so too.
It's called boundaries. It's a magic thing in all relationships and
We
friendships.
didn't learn that though. We didn't really learn boundaries as like teenagers. I feel like, boundaries would have changed my whole life
Yeah.
back then when it comes to like guy-girl relationships, because I really was told that guys and girls couldn't be friends, especially by my church.
Yeah.
It's like, if you go hang out with a guy, you're on a date. And it's like, that's so toxic.
Yeah.
That does not have to be like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I don't think I was technically taught the concept of like the real truth of boundaries.
Yeah.
I just think that like to an extent, for some reason, without knowing I was putting up boundaries, I still was. And it just worked out for me in those ways.
Yeah.
But no, we weren't taught boundaries as a healthy relationship thing.
Tool.
Yeah. We were taught don't have relationships.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to an extent, I was still acting on that lesson, don't have relationships, because I was just having guy friends. But I wasn't listening to the stupid advice of don't have guy friends. So
yeah.
I really wish that my younger self knew that she could stand up for herself a little bit more. Just through anything to anybody, that you are your biggest advocate. I wish that my teenage self and even younger knew that.
Yeah.
Because I've had to learn that in adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand up for yourself a little more. A lot more, but at least a little more.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I have one that's kind of in that vein. And it's not every grown-up knows what they're talking about.
Yes.
You don't have to follow everyone's advice.
They're just big kids.
Yes.
They really are. And now I have definitely learned now to not admire them because of their age. Yeah, their life that they've lived, but to admire them and treasure their words based on the kind of life that they lived.
The lessons they've learned too.
Yes, the lessons. That's kind of what I mean. Is like
not the life you live, the lessons you've learned.
Yeah, the lessons that they've learned and the things that they have conquered, and the lessons that they learned through those conquerings and stuff like that. And do you admire the things that they conquered? Do you admire the way that they live their life now?
How they handle themselves.
How they handle themselves.
Yeah.
How they carry themselves. How they treat other people. You know. Maybe.
That carries so much more weight, and that can be any age.
Totally.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
I
do too.
think that, I just remember there were some moments in my life where I would have a lot of adults telling me a lot of different things, and I felt more confused on what the heck to do with my life than anything else.
Yeah.
Because some adults were like, go travel while you're young. And then some adults were like, you need to be thinking about your future right now.
Yeah.
You need to have your entire life figured out right now. You need to go to school. Other adults would tell me, oh, like school doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Like, guys, they're all just like
opinions,
throwing spaghetti at the wall. Okay,
Yeah.
trust me, they're all throwing spaghetti at the wall.
But that's how you figure out if the noodles are done.
Even if it's planned, even it's strategic spaghetti throwing, they're all throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Have you ever heard that tip that if you throw a spaghetti noodle at the wall and it
Yes.
sticks, it's ready?
Yes.
That's funny. I've never done that before. I just bite into it.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to throw spaghetti at the wall sometimes.
I've done it and it's pretty unreliable.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm still going to try it. I'm going to learn for myself.
Yeah.
Oh man. My last thing, honestly, this is a lesson that I continue to have to learn daily, is that you just have to go easy on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Being a teenager especially is hard. It's a lot. I mean, it's easy in a lot of respects, but it's also really hard. There's a lot of things that you can't control, and life is not always going to go the way you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't going to do the things that you want or expect out of them because they're in the mess of it that you are as well. And so go easy on yourself, go easy on others, and it gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that. To go off of yours, let seasons be seasons. Don't try to make yourself feel or do something that is out of season for you. Like if you're in a season of just like I am right now, I need everything to be very slow paced, and I'm transitioning back into picking up a lot more responsibilities and kind of getting everything back on track. But I needed to let myself, I went through, I would say probably like a good 9 months of grieving because my cat died. And then, I was hitting the peak of all my health stuff, and that was a lot to grieve as well. And so, there was like a good 9 months where I felt like on some level I was grieving something.
Yeah.
And then I had a major career change that was super unexpected, and that was a little bit of grief to deal with. And, so it felt like a lot of grieving in different ways the past 9 months. And that's really where I learned this lesson. And I wish that I had done more of that, especially in my very confusing teen years, where you just feel like everything is noise and you're not really sure what's right, what's not. Like, I wish that I had taken more time to let myself feel however I was actually feeling.
Right.
Or to let myself do what I was doing at the time, and fully pursue that thing or whatever, and not like constantly be second guessing it, looking at other options or whatever. So
I love the way you phrased that too.
I do too.
Let seasons be seasons. Yeah. Don't force yourself into something that's not conducive to the season you're in. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a lesson I need to learn.
We need to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That really resonates with me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could go really deep, but I'm not going to.
It's okay. Maybe we have a whole episode on letting seasons be seasons.
Yeah. Next one is burnout is not the only option.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my gosh.
Especially when you're young and people are telling you to figure your life out, and you need to figure it out right now. You need to go to college, or you need to, I don't know, do something, get the next promotion. Like you got everything right now is how it feels whenever you're growing up. And so it kind of often flings you into this state of just like, okay, I need to do everything right now.
Yeah.
I need to set up my entire future, have everything figured out for my future right now.
And I'm 18.
Yeah. And
how ridiculous does that sound, by the way?
Ridiculous. That small portion of your life that is, and you're supposed to have everything figured out.
Well, it's a complete narrative change too. Like they spend most of your life up to that point saying, don't grow up too fast. Don't grow up too fast. Slow down. You're only a teenager. Like you don't know anything. You're 16, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden at 18, you're supposed to have everything figured out all of a sudden. And like, you're supposed to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life and be an adult.
Yeah.
What?
It's like a switch just like friggin' flips.
It's a complete change in narrative.
And it completely ignores the complexity of the human heart.
Yeah.
And just humans in general, you know?
Right.
That's what I really hate about it. Is that it just like completely ignores the total being of the human. You know what I'm saying?
I had friends in college who took like 6 years to graduate because they changed their major, a handful of times. And I'm like, if you've got the ability to do that and kind of explore different options, do it. Like, why is that?
Absolutely.
Why are we teasing people for taking their time on deciding the rest of their life?
Yeah.
Like, why? That doesn't make any sense to me. And it's often adults. It's like, when are you going to graduate? Graduated yet? And it's like, dude, like give them some time. It's their life that they're trying to figure out. And there's nothing wrong with trying a few different things.
Yeah, there's a little tedious. Give me some space.
Yeah.
Like, this is my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
I always got so frustrated. I always told my friends in those situations, if I ever heard comments made and like teasing them, I'm like, so a lot of them really handled it well. They had good humor about it. But at the same time, it's like, it's got to get grating after a while to hear those things. And all you're doing is just trying to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Take your time with it. If you've got the ability to take your time and get it figured out, do it.
Well, it goes right along with like, when are you going to have a baby?
Yeah, it does.
You know, like, first of all, that's personal. Second of all,
or when are you going to get married?
You know, yes, exactly. It just flows right into adulthood.
Katie's not on Instagram, so you weren't on Instagram whenever I did the anonymous messages, and I got like 2 or 3 questions, people asking me if I plan on having kids or when I plan on having kids. And I was like, we don't plan on having kids, might adopt basically one day. I told them, exactly.
Gave them
and I got
answers they don't deserve to know.
I got so many women messaging me saying how pressured they feel by their family members to have kids. Even somebody who was completely infertile talking to me, telling me about how her mom is like, well, why don't you just adopt and stuff like that? And I was like, it broke my friggin' heart.
Yeah.
Like, I really, like, I can take it for myself, but I really think if I saw somebody else talking to one of my loved ones the way that I've been talked to, I would probably snap on them.
Yeah.
Because it's so incredibly inappropriate. I went off on a whole tangent on my Instagram stories about it. Because
really?
She did, and it was great.
Yeah, because I was just like, it's so sad to me how, like, this is such a, not only a personal decision, but it's literally a decision that changes your entire life.
It has nothing to do with anybody else except for the other person who helps create that life.
Yeah.
That's it.
And one of the points that I made is I was like, I have no doubt that children bring a very, very special kind of joy into your life. But I really do think that a lot of the people that are like, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? It's because they don't know joy and fullness outside of having kids, because most of them had kids when they were pretty young, in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And
it's bizarre to them that you're waiting.
It's bizarre that we're waiting. And that's all I'm going to say about this, because I don't know who all in my family listens to this, and I don't want to say anything that could offend them. But there's still so much joy that exists outside of children. That's not to diminish the joy that children bring into this world. But, and that's not to say that I don't enjoy that joy, but that there's also a lot of joy and fullness that exists outside of children, that should exist outside of children. You know why I think it bothers me so much whenever people pressure is not just because, I've been trying to like put my finger on it, but it's not just because, it's not really because it's a super personal question. I've never felt that way. To me, I've always just been like, it's a natural course of life for most people that we know. So whenever people ask, when are you going to have kids? I don't really care, because I'm like, most people go down that path. So most people assume that most people are going to do that.
It's like the logical next step,
exactly.
The logical assumption.
It's more of like a logical question rather than any trying to pry into your personal business.
Now there are people who are prying.
Now, yes. And
demanding.
I do think that people need to realize how personal that question actually is.
Yeah.
So I do think that we need to learn that that is a prying question, even if you don't intend it to be. But I think I've realized that the reason it actually bothers me is because whenever people do push for like, why haven't you had kids yet? Like blah, 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 blah. Like my mom will say, have 5 kids and only 1 grandbaby. And she would like genuinely obviously be irritated that she only has 1 grandbaby so far, and would especially be looking at me because I'm the only one that's married, to fill that gap. And I'd just be like, not me. And I think the reason it feels like that whenever they get really pressuring about it is because it feels like they're implying that what I'm doing with my life right now isn't as important as if I had a child.
Yes.
And although that is also very, very, very incredibly important work, and I'm not just saying that because that's the right thing to say. I genuinely believe that, like, that is so, like, I feel it in my heart and the weight of it whenever I say that that is such important work, and, like, if not the most important job on the planet. But it does make me feel like, well, what you're doing right now and all your dreams and all your aspirations and the path,
not good enough.
It's not good enough. It's not that as important as having a child. So you should throw all that to the side and have a child. And I know that people go after,
because I want you to,
because I want a grandbaby.
Yeah.
And anyways, I'm just going to end it on, I know that kids are a joy in this world. I also know and have experienced so much joy outside of that, and will continue to experience joy and fullness outside of that. And maybe I will have a kid one day. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm not one of those people that's like, you won't change my mind. Like, if I change my mind, I change my mind, but I did it for me, not because somebody wanted a grandbaby.
Yeah. You did it. Like, you did it in your time. Or just whatever time's right.
And I'm not going to do it because somebody belittled the importance of whatever I'm doing then. Yeah. You know? Like,
whoever thinks that that's going to make you want to have a kid more is so wrong.
And even if it's outside of, like, dreams and aspirations, like, I think of all the health things that I was going through this past year, and people are still asking about when I'm going to have kids and stuff like that. And I'm like,
I'm just trying to survive.
I'm literally just trying to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to grow a baby in this body that's broken.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and you're telling me that that's more important work than the healing that I'm doing right now? Like, that, yeah.
We got off on a big tangent, which is surprise.
Yeah.
Welcome to Womanly, where there's always room for tangents at this table. But I think all of this amounts to our final piece of advice, not final, but for this episode, that you don't have to follow the path set out for you by somebody else.
Yes. Let me end on the last one that I want to share, and it won't have to be a discussion.
Okay.
Which is relationships and wellness, yours and others, are the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, like relationships and well-being in all aspects, that is the meaning of life. That is where God exists, I think.
Yeah. That's where meaning exists for sure. Oh, actually, final piece of advice for the episode, right? Ooh. Ready?
Oh?
Wear your sunscreen.
Drink your water.
Be kind to yourself.
Bye.
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 Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.